Hello everyone, once again. This is Andrew from the Galileosky technical support team, and I will be your host for today's webinar, which is called How to Read CAN Data Outside the Car. So today we will look at the new functionality available for our trackers, and I will briefly tell you what it is all about, what you can do with it, and even show you how to use it. Before we begin, please check that you can hear me well, that you can see me well, that the quality of the video is good, and that the sound is not too low or disappearing or non-existent at all. Also, I would like to point out that we are having a small program to support our viewers. We are looking at all the viewers through all the webinars this year. Both which were already and which will be held until the end of the year, until the end of December, and the most active viewers who participated most and asked questions most and were at as many webinars, not only registered to them but were actually on the webinars. Will have small prizes for the most active viewers. So this is a little thank you from us for participating in our webinars. It is very important for us and we appreciate it very much because that's what the webinars, we are doing it for you. So please be active and participate and sign up for the new webinars, and at the end of the year we'll make a short prize ceremony for them. Okay, now concerning today's webinar, we'll look at the new CAN scanner function for recording the log from the CAN bus, so the messages that we receive via CAN bus. We'll look at the principles of how to operate with this new functionality and look at this new CAN logger interface. And we'll actually look how to find parameters in the CAN bus without connecting it at the moment to the car. As usual, the small information about today's webinar, it will be around 60 minutes, depending on how many questions you'll have. The recording of this webinar at the end of the webinar will be sent to your emails that you wrote when you registered for this webinar. And all questions you can ask on the tab questions on the right upper part of the list. You can also write them in chat, but it is more convenient if you write them in the questions section because we'll have a better look at those. So here you can see where the questions tab is and how you can look at it and access it actually. So the basic functionality of today's webinar and basic functionality of this CAN logger function is that you will be able to find the CAN data whenever, wherever you are and wherever you want. So you're not bound to be working with a vehicle online to be connected to the vehicle when looking when looking at the CAN bus data to find some parameters. You will be able to do it while the vehicle is working somewhere, so driving, moving cargoes, or transporting, or well, anything, doesn't matter. And you can find the parameters you need in convenient conditions for you. Sitting in the office or in the testing room, doesn't matter. So this all is available using the new CAN logger function that will be available that is actually already available on the CAN scanner tab in the configurated program in the tab settings. So what is this new functionality and what it can help to do? You can use the vehicle simultaneously while working with CAN scanner, so no need to connect to the tracker connected to the vehicle, accessing CAN scanner tool and reading the CAN bus locally using USB connection. You can do it all before changing some parameters, just like in a couple of minutes, 5-10 minutes maybe. Collect the log, and then you read it in the conditions that are convenient for you while the vehicle is driving somewhere. You can watch this CAN recording, the log, CAN log, as many times as needed. So you are not bound to just looking through it once, like when you're looking online, when you're changing some parameters. You can replay it as many times as you wish. It doesn't matter. You can send this the log from the CAN bus, so this recording, to our tech support team, and you'll receive help in finding parameters, because we're always there to help you with anything concerning our trackers. And you can actually train in parameter search and teach your colleagues or clients how to look for different parameters in the CAN bus. So when you already know what identifiers have what information, you can always train to and show other people how to find these parameters while replaying the log as if it is. So it's basically it's a kind of a CAN bus simulation that you can use to find the parameters. So the new scheme, the new algorithm of how to search for CAN data and look for CAN parameters is the following. First, you connect to the CAN bus using OBD2 connector, or directly to the CAN-H, CAN-L contacts, either cutting into them or using non-contact readers. Then you try reading the data, so you can use CAN scanner tool for that. Just selecting the speed is enough, so you don't need to select a specific filter for that. You'll have all the identifiers anyway. And the new thing here is that while you're reading the data, you can also record this data in a log. It will copy not only the messages themselves, but also the time interval with which they are arriving, so you will have a full recording of how the data in the CAN bus are arriving. After you recorded the log, you can let the vehicle drive away. No need to be connected to it again. Set the log for replaying. You can replay it manually, or you can put it in cycle, so it will replay again and again. And then after understanding which parameters are bound to which parts of the CAN bus and the sensors, you can set it to be sent on the monitoring software, where you can actually get the required data. So this is how the new CAN scanner tool looks like, and you can see that on the right upper side there is an addition, which actually is the CAN logger. So it consists of 3 parts. We'll now look a little bit closer at those. So we have here the control panel. So it shows different buttons which are used to control the log recording. Now I will soon switch to screen sharing and show you in real time how these log can be used and what each button does and what it can be used for. Although the symbols are quite easy to understand, I will nevertheless tell you about each of those. This is the window with the recorded messages. So it shows all the messages recorded with the identifier and the timestamp of each of them. So at what time each message was recorded, in case if you want to remember at what time you were testing which part of the CAN bus. And also there is opportunity to use different colors for different tests, for different sections of CAN bus tests. For example, when you're checking the engine, you're painting it green, then switching to gas pedal, you paint it blue, and so on. So this is very convenient when you need to diversify different tests and different parts of the CAN bus, even maybe different CAN buses inside the vehicle. to not to just write yourself somewhere all these time periods and identifiers, but simply have a color indication for each test. Okay, and now yes, and so what is required for this feature? It is supported on Galileosky 7 base block and OBD2 trackers. So all trackers of the new line. So all the older trackers like 5.0, 5.1, and lower are not supporting it. The firmware should be 20.6 or higher. So it is always better, of course, to use the latest firmware because it is usually the most efficient and stable. So you can, well, any modern firmware, stable firmware for our new trackers is further than 20.6. So here everything is fine. And the configurator program should be 4.19.0 or higher. So now the current version of configurator is 4.19.1. And of course, you'll need some kind of connection to the CAN bus. It can be OBD2 connector or other means like wires connected to CAN-H canal or wireless non-contact reader. Now let's, okay, and the last part is the key features of the CAN logger. That's the last thing before we switch to the demonstration of the function. So what are the basic advantages of using CAN logger and why actually we decided to add such feature to our functionality? Now there will be no vehicle wasting. So no time when vehicle is just standing on one spot and not working. Now the vehicle can drive while you are looking at the log that you've already read from the vehicle and trying to configure which parameter stands for what. This is a free advanced. This is a free addition to the tracker functionality. Which will actually help, and you don't have to pay any extra cost for that. The data search is quite convenient due to different color sections and different elements of control for the CAN logger. And of course, there are new opportunities for use of these functionality that you'll have and we together will discover later while using it. Now let me share my screen with you. So just a second. Please write in the chat if you see the screen, if you can see the configurator tool. Okay, I can see that the screen is being shared. Yeah, great. So this is the CAN scanner tool. Let me just make it on, yeah, full size. Okay, that would be better probably. Okay, so the thing here is that as I already mentioned, there are three parts here. So the most, I guess, the most intuitive parts are these two buttons. Okay, is my cursor showing, right? Yes. Okay, so these two buttons, which represent the recording itself and replaying the recording. So when we start receiving some data from the canvas, as you can see, once we push the record button, we start receiving these messages in the CAN messages window. So there are different timestamps, as I already mentioned, different identifiers, and the messages themselves. Once we pause, we stop recording. We see the full length of the messages, and well, I mean the full size, the full number of messages written into the log, and we can replay it using the play button. So as you see, it is now replayed one by one, the same process that was recorded here. This button allows us to enable or disable repeating the messages. I will now, so now there is no repeat. So once we, let me just clear this one. So this is, of course, deleting all the messages, as it is very intuitive trash bin. So let me just make a quick log. Yeah. And now replayed. So when we are replaying without any repetition, once the recording, the number of records gets to the last one, it stops recording. If we enable repeating and do the same, it will be in cycle, so repeating all the messages again and again from the beginning. So as you can see. And also the third option here is repeating only the section that we are in. Now we don't have any because we didn't use any color indication. After I show how to use this color indication, I will again show you this repetition inside one zone. These buttons allow to switch between messages, so it just allows to play it one by one. One click is one step to the next message, while this allows to switch between zones. Let me then just quickly show you how the zones work. So again, we start receiving, start recording it, and now, for example, we want to have a separate zone. We highlight it with red, stop highlighting. Then we have another zone that we need to highlight. We use blue and stop. So now we have different zones here. Well, the neutral zone without color, one zone with red color, then again neutral, and one zone with blue. So if we switch, well, if we go to the beginning and switch one by one, we'll just move inside the zone. But if we use the next zone button, we'll get to the red zone, then neutral, then blue zone. So this button allows to switch between the test segments that we used using the highlighter, different colors of the highlighter. And as I told you, now we have cycling inside a zone. So if we replay this one, it will get to the end of the blue zone. Okay, it may take some time. And then it will replay inside this zone. So it will start from the beginning of the blue zone. This function will be the same as filtering in the CAN scanner. Now it is in a process of development. So once it is ready, we'll also have a news and an article about that on our website. So you can read about it and use more advanced functionality, because there is always room for development and enhancement and innovations. So we've created the opportunity even before we added the actual functionality, before we were able to do it. And once we add, we'll inform you. This button allows us to copy a whole message to the transmission part. So if I push it, I'll get all the whole message, this which is now highlighted in the send message part. By default, and that's also important part of this CAN logger functionality. By default, the log that is collected from the CAN bus, so this CAN recording, cannot be sent to directly to the CAN bus. So when you are replaying it, you're simply replaying it inside the CAN scanner tool, inside the configurator program. You're not interfering with the vehicle itself. Probably we are to add it a little bit later, but it's just for now, it's just simple replaying the CAN bus recording in order to get and to understand which messages stand for what parameters. And the last two buttons on the interface part, on the interface tab, allow us to save the CAN log into file and to load it as a file to the configurator program. It allows to save this CAN log, the log from the CAN bus in our own unique format. So you cannot use any program to open it rather than our configurator. So it is only for the configurator program use. This is made exactly for for internal usage within our Galileosky trackers. So the process is pretty simple. You save it with some name, and then you load it. So here we have all the messages that we recorded from the start. All the color zones, of course, are saved as well. So now let me just make a quick demonstration of how it can be used when you are connected to CAN bus of a real vehicle and you have very limited time to work with it. So I'll just delete all this, clear all that. Now, so we start receiving. So this is our normal CAN bus reading. We start recording it. Then I will now turn on the right turn indicator and use the green. So you can see that it's glowing on the screen. Then stop. Then use the left one, and for example use another type of green. Then okay, I just recorded that. Then I'll change the speed speed gear and stop it. And so stop the all the log recording. So basically we now recorded 3 different parameters and 3 different parts. The green part, first green part is the right turn. Then the other green part is the left turn, and the blue part is changing the gear, changing the speed on the gearbox. Then we just, if that's all the info we need from the vehicle, we just let it go. It goes driving somewhere on the object, on the geofence, doesn't matter. We save this this log recording. Let's just name it. Okay, sorry, the language didn't switch. Okay. And then after we get to our office, we simply load the record, look at our notes, see that we had the green for the right indicator, and we just replay it and see what parameter here changed at what time when we were pushing the button of the right turner. So we actually see here that this byte, for example, is indicating. So this is 1 bit usually, because it's just a sign of it being turned on and off. So more or less, with some being a little bit sure, we can say that this might be the case. So then we just point for us that the identifier 5DC is for the first byte, the last bit is for the right turn signal, and we simply, when we connect to the CAN bus again, we just check this if we are true. If yes, then we set the CAN scanner accordingly. Then we switch to the next zone. Again, we are still cycled inside this zone, and we look what bit changed when we're using the left turner. It's the same one. So we can set it to understand when we are turning somewhere. And the last one, so we can also replay it and try to find out which one was changing. So basically, that's how this functionality is working. So once again, it is only for using with the configurator tool. It is not sending any messages into the CAN bus, so you will not interfere with the vehicle's CAN bus. You will simply read it and then replay it. So it's kind of simulation of working CAN bus when you know at what point of time what changes in the vehicle performance were made, and you can actually, based on this functionality, understand what identifier stands for what action. So it's making the CAN bus reading easier for you, our clients. If you, again, I repeat, if there are any troubles with reading the CAN log recording by yourself, you can always address us, your tech support for Galileosky trackers, and we'll help you with understanding what is for what. Basically, that's all that I wanted to tell and show on this webinar. So we can turn to the questions section for now. So let me just return to the presentation itself. And for now, I see only one question. It's from Federico. Yeah. Okay, so about that. The identifiers in the CAN bus are always depending on what the manufacturers themselves decided to use for identifying this or that part of the CAN bus. So it can be a standard one. In that case, it is covered in the J1939 standard description, where you can find each identifier and the value that is connected to it. If by some point the manufacturer decided to use alternative identifiers, something that is not standard, non-standard, then I'm afraid it's either looking at the forums or asking from the manufacturer, which he usually does not provide such information, or finding it yourself. So the basic principle of working with CAN scanner is pretty simple. You start reading the CAN bus and change some parameter, as you have seen me doing. Then you stop changing it. And you are looking at the values that were first changing while you were actively using some function, and then stop changing when you stopped using the function. That allows you to understand at what identifier and at what byte and bit this or that information is included. And later you simply bind it to some tag in the protocol and send it to the server. So nothing really hard here. Okay, questions from Prince Robert about reading fuel using the CAN bus. Does it come in liters, or it depends on the CAN bus again? Because in some CAN buses it can arrive in liters, right? In some buses it can arrive in percents, and also there can be a multiplier, so some value by which this fuel level is measured. So it can be, for example, multiplied by 2 in order to send it not in liters but in half liters. The RPM from the CAN bus, yes, it's actually one of the easiest ones. You simply start pushing the gas pedal while having the engine running, not necessarily driving at the point, and look what value is growing up. There is usually also a value by which this RPM is changed, but it's pretty easy to calculate. And we actually have a video on our on our YouTube channel about how to find the RPM, as far as I'm concerned, using the CAN scanner tool. So you can look at that as well. How accurate is the fuel level by CAN bus? This is determined by the fuel level sensor used in the um, standard vehicle included by manufacturer, which is not very accurate usually because it's voltage, analog sensor, analog or frequency. So the accuracy is not very high. Plus, there can be different noises that also lower the accuracy. So if you want to have an accurate reading, you better use external fuel level sensor, and of course it will be connected to the tracker in another way, usually not using the CAN bus. Is there a way to slow down the replay speed? Yes, of course. So you don't have to actually set playing all the messages one after the other. You can switch between them, as I have shown. So let me just quickly, I guess that was a little bit of my mistake to disconnect from the configurator. So let's just do it once again. While replaying the log recorded from the CAN bus, you don't have to play it like this. So one by one, by a whole stream, you can simply use these two buttons to switch it one by one. So in this case, each click is switching to the next message. This is how you can actually control the speed of the reading of this recording by simply clicking as fast as you need to. So you can click quite fast, and you can do it slower. As a separate setting, no, we don't have any speed recording. That depends on the PC ability and PC technical characteristics. Usually it's the memory, so the RAM size. Okay, and let's look if there are any questions in the chat section. Okay, no questions in the chat section. Okay. Yeah, I see that. Yes, you're welcome for that. Okay, so while you're thinking what other questions you can possibly ask using the functionality, because it has a lot of potential, it has a lot of different ways to use it. More than that, there is a little thing that I would like to propose you. So we are now collecting a database of different vehicles and their CAN buses and their identifiers in these CAN buses. So if there is a possibility for you, you can write the log from the CAN bus, this recorded, save it and send to us with pointing out what vehicle manufacturer, what model, what year this vehicle is. And we'll try to help you to read this data, and with this we'll also add this vehicle to our existing database, thus expanding our knowledge on what CAN buses there are and what identifiers there are in the CAN buses, and further helping you when dealing with new vehicles. So we are developing in this case using the CAN bus, and you'll develop with us as well and help your client get the information he desires. Also, while we are waiting for any other questions, I would like to remind you that you should have been informed by a letter on your email that all our old trackers, so not 7.0, not base blocks, we're talking about 5.0, 5.1, 4.0 to 5, and so on. So all the older trackers should be upgraded. The firmware should be upgraded to version 230 or 232. This is crucial in order for the trackers to work correctly. Otherwise, they might have troubles with the date and time. Okay, so we have a new question. Besides the CAN bus, how easy can I read the RPM? Well, you can try to connect to the sensor directly, or set some pulse counter and use it. But actually, if you are going to connect to the CAN bus, reading it from the CAN bus might be the easiest one, because it's pretty easy to find, it's pretty easy to set to send to the server, and you don't have to, well, if you're already connected to the CAN bus, you don't have to use any extra wiring for that. So that's the easiest part. Again, while we are waiting for other questions, I want to remind you that we have an encouragement program for all our viewers, for those of you who connected not from the beginning of the webinar. So we are going to encourage all our viewers for participating, for asking questions, for being online on the webinars. We are collecting these statistics from the beginning of the year, and we will be doing it until the end of the year in December. After that, we'll have a small prizes for the top 3 clients who were the most active and the most participated in the most number of webinars during the year. So for these clients, the 3rd place will be rewarded with a Galileosky tracker. Second place will be rewarded with some set of brand souvenirs from our Galileosky company. And the first place will be rewarded with a demo set for a Galileosky tracker, which is pretty cool. It allows to show different features of our Galileosky tracker. There are different preset outputs and inputs and buttons and so on. There is a lot of motivation to participate, not only to get new info, of course, about our functionality and every new features that we have. Okay, about the training about CAN bus and other modules. Well, we normally do not do that because, we'll think about it. Might be that we'll have such webinar dedicated to how to find. Although I think that we already had it. We already had it in the beginning of the year when we released the CAN scanner tool. But maybe we'll repeat it as well for our new clients, so how to find data in the CAN bus. Although we have corresponding instructions, as I already mentioned, and we have corresponding videos on our YouTube channel. So there is nothing really hard with that. I'm sorry, but I'm not aware of such. So you can actually use the reading from the real CAN bus by the tracker and use this CAN recording as a CAN bus simulator. So nothing wrong with that. Just connect once to some vehicle, read the CAN bus, collect the recording for some time, and then share this file, and any client who has a Galileosky tracker and configurator can reopen it and use it as a simulator for other tracker. It's as simple as that. Yeah, that's mostly like that, making libraries, sure. Okay, so basically that's basically all that I wanted to tell you. So once again, I wanted to point out that we have sent very important emails about necessity to upgrade the firmware on your old trackers, Galileosky 5.0, 5.1 and lower. So you can use upgrade 0 to upgrade to firmwares to 130 to 132. Also, there is a possibility to upgrade to a lower firmware. So you can use it to upgrade to firmware 200. For that, use a command upgrade space 200. We'll use it. We'll write it in the chat now. So the commands are upgrade 0. Okay, 1 second. Upgrade 0 and upgrade 200. So for all old trackers, not 7 zeros, not base blocks, not ABD2s, all the rest, it is very, very recommended to use this command or to upgrade locally using the latest configurator program, which is 4.19.1. Yeah, so if there are no more questions on the topic, thank you very much for your attention. We are very happy to hold webinars with you as usual. 199 Prince Robert is now upgraded to 200 in order to have a more clear understanding if you have an upgraded firmware or not. So all the trackers that supported 199 now support 200. So once again, thank you very much. Thank you for your feedback. Thank you for your questions, and see you on the next webinar.